Castlevania The Adventure. It's one of the earliest Game Boy games. It was a game on the Game Boy.
Is this the black and white game?
Do you remember the Game Boy? I do.
Is that the thing you played Tetris on?
Yes. And Pokemon.
I never had one of those Game Boys.
Oh. And Mega Man. Lots of cool Mega Man games on the Game Boy. Anyway, Castlevania The Adventure is one of the earliest Game Boy games. It came out like 1989 or like 90, like around that point. It's basically what you'd expect of a Game Boy game at that time. It's trying its darndest to be Castlevania despite the limitations of the hardware. So compromises include only having 4 stages. They're long, but there's only 4 stages. Not having any stairs. You have to climb ropes instead.
Is that better or worse?
I don't really know. I'll get into that in a bit. No sub-weapons either, which means no hearts or things like that. It's so weird.
Is it a game that you would consider Castlevania in name only?
I'd say it is a Castlevania game because you still play as Whippy Dude.
Yeah.
And Whippy Dude still sort of controls like Whippy Dude. You just don't have the sub-weapons like Whippy Dude. Why am I just calling him Whippy Dude? His name is Christopher Belmont.
No, his name is Whippy Dude.
No, he's called Christopher Belmont.
His name is Sip Man.
Yeah, you play as Christopher Belmont. He doesn't control exactly like Simon or Trevor or any of these other Belmonts running around. The game is a bit chuggier. You do get a couple of cool things like your whip. When you upgrade your whip, you can start shooting fireballs out of the whip.
Yeah,
that's kind of neat.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Unfortunately, if you get hit,
you lose it. Very
which
Zelda.
is really stupid. I don't know why they did that.
Because Legend of Zelda.
No, screw Legend of Zelda. That series is fucking overrated. Yeah, I said it. Yeah, it's what you'd expect of a Game Boy game from 1989. I can also say this is a game that fucked with the timeline, which, don't worry, there's another one in this that fucked with the timeline. But it came out around the same time as Dracula's Curse, and it's supposed to take place 100 years before Simon Belmont. But Dracula's Curse takes place 100 years before Simon Belmont.
They didn't do their research, huh?
So instead, they had to rearrange it so that Dracula's Curse takes place like 115 years before this game. So that now it's 215 years before Simon Belmont's time is Dracula's Curse.
Couldn't you just remove it from the timeline? I don't think anyone cares.
No, apparently this had to be rearranged. Apparently, to the timeline.
Next game. Let's talk
the
about
next game though, which is I've got to tell you some plot because it's fucking weird.
Okay.
So, Castlevania The Adventure Belmont's Revenge, or Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge, released in 1991. You play as Christopher Belmont again, but he has a son, Soleil Belmont, or Soyu Belmont, whatever. Anyway, long story short, his son gets turned into a demon by Dracula. And he's one of the primary antagonists of the fucking game. What? That's so weird. As you imagine, Christopher Belmont's pretty fucking pissed about his son being turned into a demon. So in this game, he decided to start using sub-weapons. Holy shit, they're back. But there's only 2 of them.
Oh, okay.
You get a cross and you get holy water. Although in the US, the cross is actually an axe instead. But here in Japan, it's a cross. So I'm calling it a cross. No, we're in.
No, we're not. We're not anywhere.
It's also like another difference would be in the level structure is now you choose which level you want to go to, like Mega Man style basically. You have they're different castles. You have an air, plant, earth or crystal castle. And the level design is a bit more creative. So the ropes, which you were asking me about earlier, they're actually kind of cool in this game because they actually make you have to do like obstacle courses involving the ropes. So you have to like do like Donkey Kong Jr., like going across the ropes and there's like spike pits and stuff like that. That's cool. There's a couple of other ones as well that I like that. I think there's like a bit in the game with candles, and if you whip the candles, the room starts to get darker, which then like obviously hinders you.
Yeah.
This is the only Castlevania game where you don't want to whip candles because it can screw you up. Other than that, it's pretty much more of the same, but it's got better level design and a weird as hell story. I would say of the 3 Game Boy games we're talking about today, this is the best one.
Yeah.
This is the one that maybe you should give your time to.
Do you think it's worth giving your time to, thinking of the current situation of 2018 and how many Castlevania games you could be playing?
Well, like, considering the fact that there are 3 Castlevania games on the Game Boy Advance, I would say you're better off playing those than going this far back in time. I feel like the only reason to play Castlevania Belmont's Revenge would be just to say you've played Castlevania Belmont's Revenge.
So like, it's more of like an archaeological dig than it is.
Yeah, more than if it's actually worth your time investment to play it. Like, there are better Game Boy games. You could be playing Pokemon in that time. You could be playing Gold and Silver in that time, or you could be playing Samus Returns, or you could be playing like
Link's Adventure.
Yeah, Link's Awakening.
That's the one.
Or Super Mario Land 2. There's like way better Game Boy games than this one.
Mario Land 2.
Yeah. All the Mega Man ones.
Right,
I really like Mega. A couple of years later, 1997, the same year as Symphony of the Night. That was a good game. I
haven't heard of it.
I should talk about that one.
Fuck that game.
Castlevania Legends. Hit the scene, hit the mean streets of 1997. This one I think is more infamous just for like the protagonist, since you're playing as Sonia Belmont, who, if you didn't guess from a name like Sonia, is a girl. It's a girl Belmont. What? Insanity. There's never been a Castlevania game where you play as a girl before, except all those Castlevania games where you can play as a girl. Sarcasm aside, I think people the only other thing I think people really know is that this is the one that got retconned, and if you look into the storyline, I think you can see why, because this game is supposed to be an origin story for, like, the entire Belmont family.
Yeah.
And, basically, long story short, Sonia in this game is Trevor Belmont's mother, who's the dad. Well, it's massively implied that Sonia did the do with Alucard. So that would mean that if this game was canon, every single Belmont would have the same bloodline as Alucard.
So they're all related to Dracula.
Like, what
That's
the
some
fuck?
soap opera
That's
shit
some,
right there.
Yeah, what the fuck is this?
Oh no, we've been fighting our uncle all along.
Dun,
no, grandfather?
dun, 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 dugga, dugga.
Is it grandfather in this?
And I have no idea.
Our greatest great-grandfather is Dracula.
Man, that's one hell of a family drama. Like, I can't imagine what Christmas would be like at the
What is a man?
at the Belmont's house. Oh god, here comes Dracula again.
Oh, but enough talk. How about the turkey?
Outside of the story, how does the game play? It's alright.
Is it alright?
I mean, it's a Game Boy game from 1997, so it has better, like, feel than the other two, I guess.
Are you sure about that?
I'm saying better in the same sense that, like, you know, being punched in the head is better than having a knife thrown at your face. Like, give me some slack. They removed sub-weapons again, but this time, a bit like Mega Man, you get, like, soul weapons.
Okay.
But it's only after you beat a boss. So that's sort of like Mega Man, where when you beat a robot master in Mega Man, you get their power. They range from things like freezing like enemies in place, like the stopwatch, or healing yourself, or just wiping the screen with like a big like super
Kleenex.
attacks. No, not Kleenex. You also have this thing called like burning mode. You push both the face buttons at the same time, and then basically you just become invincible, and just which seems like a stupid idea, because then every boss you fight, you're just gonna go into this super mode and then just destroy them. Surely, wouldn't that make the most sense?
I mean, is it kind of like the holy water situation where, you know, a lot of the earlier games, if you get that holy water going on a boss,
Yeah, you can stun lock the boss and then just win.
though I guess then the challenge of the game is just not losing the holy water.
Yeah, like, and it's also not like guaranteed that you're going to.
No,
like,
it takes a lot more skill.
Yeah. Whereas this seems like, I'm invincible now, and I just spam my whip and win. There's like the game's a bit more like open as well in its level design. Maybe because Symphony of the Night had come out by this point, but like it doesn't really help because it's a Game Boy game, so it's kind of slow anyway. So when you make it really open, it becomes even slower. And you want to make the scale in these kinds of games, especially platform games, kind of small. So it's like bite-sized, like platforming. Whereas this just doesn't work with that, because the levels could go on forever, or you can just be wandering around like an idiot. Yeah, so it's mixed. Like, I can say all the things it sort of improved in comparison, but then the level design and the other mechanics like the burning mode or things kind of just make it so that it's just not worth playing, because it can get really boring if you don't know exactly where to go. So, and it's not like Simon's Quest, where Simon's Quest is like, at least playing Simon's Quest is kind of fun. Like, even if you're like uncertain, it's still fun. This is like, if you're uncertain, it's kind of boring. Okay, so last thing to do with like these Game Boy games, like the Adventure. There was a WiiWare game from 2005. 2005? No, the Wii wasn't out then. A WiiWare game from 2009 called The Adventure Rebirth. It's meant to be like a remake or a reimagining of Castlevania The Adventure. It's basically like just playing a normal Castlevania game now. It has all the sub-weapons, there are stairs and stuff like that. There's a couple of things here and there that make you go, oh yeah, it is The Adventure. Like, when you fully upgrade your whip, you can shoot fire out of it and stuff like that. Or like the eyeballs and like the unique enemy designs that were like independent to that game. But it's basically a new game. It's basically its own thing.
Well, it seems to me that at the time it came out, there was a big push for retro gaming callbacks. Like, this is the time of like Commando. What's his name? Commando.
Bionic Commando Rearmed.
So yeah,
or Mega Man 9.
Yeah, these sort of games were doing quite well at Capcom, and I think Konami was trying to do the same thing. Though I'd say that though this game follows the formula of these older games, it also follows a lot of the more dodgy trappings, like how you, like, more so of the original NES games, like how you can't attack on stairs, or how I don't think you can attack on stairs.
You can attack on stairs, it's just a bit clunky. Like, sometimes it will delay and stuff like that. No, you can.
Might be the other one I'm thinking of. It's just, stuff like the stairs are very clunky, you can't really work them very well, or how you've got, you have to still use weapons with, you have all the buttons, but you don't have a set like item button, or you don't have a lot of the quality of life changes.
I get what you're saying. You're basically saying that, like, despite a game coming out in 2000, and this is the same thing that I think could be said of a couple of these like games at the time, is like they're being nostalgic about like the wrong games in a way, because like by being nostalgic about like Castlevania 1, 2, and 3, you're then like throwing away all the progression you made in the later games, like item crashes. I don't think there's item crashes in Rebirth, but item crashes are cool. They're a fun mechanic that should just be in most of these games from the time it came out. Or like using the shoulder button to use your item. Yeah. Why can't you do that? There'd be no reason not to at this point.
Whipping in different directions.
Yeah, like, and again, like, I guess you could be a bit contrarian and say like, well, whipping in 8 different directions can be a bit imbalanced, but like, if you're gonna completely remake the game anyway, You could have done that. You could have made that work.
You could have made a separate character for it.
Yeah, it's strange. I think it's still worth giving a go if you can actually get your hands on it, because unfortunately, being a WiiWare game, it's kind of...
I don't know if it's on the Wii U or anything.
No, it's not on the Wii U.
So it's lost
a WiiWare, so you'd have to emulate it, basically. I'd say, like, if you were like, I want to play Castlevania the Adventure, you're better off playing this than any of the other ones. It's a shame that they've now just been lost. I think it would still be nice to be able to play these. Maybe we'll get a Steam version. Maybe. Does Konami like making games now? I can't remember.
Not really.
What week is it? They change their minds so often. I never know.
Maybe if that new game sells well, they might. The new re-release sells well, they might think about porting all these other games.
Anyway, there were Game Boy games for Castlevania. I wouldn't recommend playing any of them really, but they were there. If you're gonna play one, play Belmont's Revenge or Rebirth.